Valley Sports Talk is now brought to you by Big Shiny Windows, the Valley's clear choice for professional window cleaning, providing residential and commercial window cleaning along with siding and eavesdrop cleaning since 2004. Check out the link below for more information on their services. Episode number 63 of the Valley Sports Talk podcast. We want to welcome you back for another episode. I did not lie this time. We actually have an interview. We sat down with former pro hockey enforcer Steve Mclaren to talk about his pro hockey career, growing up in North Bay, playing for the Centenilals and such. And we will not hold that back from you. We will actually go to that in a minute, right after I say what's up to Brandon.
How's it going? I'm just looking at our predictions from last week in the NFL, and we both sucked.
Yep.
I don't know if you know the actual standings, but we both went 6 for 16, so 6-10.
Wow, we failed.
Yeah, we failed the test miserably.
Without further ado, though, we will jump to the interview with Steve right now.
Yeah, no problem.
So, welcome back to another Valley Sports Talk interview. Today, we are very happy to be joined by a 12-season hockey pro, mainly an enforcer, Steve Mclaren. Steve, how are you doing today?
Doing great today, Noah. It's nice to be on the show.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you giving us a bit of your time here to talk. So to start us off, we'll just sort of get you to introduce yourself. That's okay.
Yeah, no problem. So it's I'm Steve Mclaren. Played 11 and a bit years pro hockey. Just settled back down in my hometown of North Bay and moving on with life.
Awesome. Just want to get like a little bit information on like your before pro hockey, like what kind of hockey you played growing up, sort of how your parents introduced you into it and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, no, my dad was a fan of hockey and baseball and soccer and all the kids' sports. So at one point I had to make a choice which sport I liked the most because they at points would overcross each other, and that doesn't work so well. So playing the AAA hockey, I had to decide, no high school sports, no high school stuff, because practice there was at 4 o'clock right after school, and so was the North Bay AAA team practices. So I made the choice to stick with the hockey and give it a run.
Awesome. Well, it was definitely a good decision. Next, we wanted to kind of move on into your OHL career. Just tell us kind of how you got into the North Bay Centennials program and kind of what like the experience was like.
Well, that could be a long or a short story, but I'll give you the version that'll make sense. I played midget AAA. My first year midget ended up breaking my femur in a hockey game, and I kind of ended that year, which would have been my draft year into the OHL. But what happened was, because I went back and played a second-year midget, I ended up being the captain of the North Bay Midget AAA team that year. And as a second-year midget player with a hometown OHL team, the OHL coach and general manager have an option of signing you without you even going into the OHL draft.
Wow.
So it was Bert Templeton here in North Bay. He had a couple of chats with my dad before he passed away. And, my dad was more than happy to have me stay here and be able to play so mom and dad could come to every game. And that was the choice that was made. So I was able to stay here and not get drafted by an out-of-town team and stay at home and do my thing at home.
Awesome. We see in your first year in the OHL, your team went on a pretty long playoff run. Can you walk us through that and any memories from the playoff run and sort of how that came about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had, a well-known coach, Bert Templeton, at the time for the Centenilals. And he had gone out, had some trouble the year before with the team win-loss category. So he went out and did a lot of scouting himself and put together a team that ended up having 14 rookies to the OHL on it. And when you do something like that, and you're a coach like Bert, he kind of said what we needed to do, and we listened, and that's what we did. And I mean, I think that year we only lost 14 games all year.
Wow.
So we had quite a good winning record. I think we were on tops of the CHL all year long, head to head with Cam Loops at the time, battling all year. So
That's pretty cool.
it was a good run.
Yeah.
Looking at your points and stuff like that, it's obvious that you were a fighter. Obviously, we know that. How did you sort of figure out your role as a fighter? How did you sort of adapt to that? And like, what sort of led up to being, my role is going to be an enforcer?
Well, again, we go back to that Bert Templeton thing. Actually, it's on my hockey card from the Centennials, and it was, he's a hard-nosed, aggressive player, and basically Bert went on to tell me if I kept working that angle, that I'd be one of the better guys in the position and would make it in the NHL. So I started pushing that, trying to make my hits hard, standing up for my teammates whenever it was required. And it's in yourself or it's not. For me, it wasn't that hard. I didn't mind doing it. And, if things went awry, I knew the rest were always there to step in. So
I just want to sort of dive into one certain fight against Chris Murray in the Gardens. It's one that whenever I was sort of looking you up on YouTube, it's the fight that I was like really into. I was like, oh my God, like I just want to sort of know how it started, what led up to it. Cause like, I don't know how these fights sort of started back in those days. So like, just give us the lead up to that if you don't mind.
Yeah, that starts in the washroom looking at the stat facts for the other team before the game. I mean, you're sitting there, you're measuring up in your mind what you can do to make yourself stand out in that particular game. And obviously you look at the other teams we're playing. We had never played them. They're from another part of the country. So you get to see who had the penalty minutes, who didn't. Going into the game, that was something that, I knew I could impress a lot of coaches in the NHL or whatnot if I had gotten into a fight or because I was game and ready to do it type of thing. So going into the game against Cam Loops, a lot of people knew I was going to do it too. And I'm sure the guys on their team knew that that's what their guy was there for. Had a little chat again with Bert Templeton, and he kind of went on to tell me, well, Steve, if you get into a tussle with this guy, because this is the guy that's going to give you your drafting position, raise your ranks. He went on to tell me, like I said, that he's going to come out of his equipment. There's not going to be anything for you to grab onto type of thing. That's the style, like a Rob Ray early style fighter, but a tough guy. So, I mean, I knew I was going into that. And just, it was time. We were down a couple of goals, and it was time to try to sway the crowd and the rest of our team with a little bit of confidence. So there he was on the ice. There I was on the ice. A little chop, and it was on.
Yeah, it was a good fight for sure.
So it seems like obviously your OHL career went pretty well, which leads us into the NHL draft. Obviously, you were drafted by Chicago in the 4th round. What is the NHL draft process like? Were you nervous? Did any teams talk to you? Did you think you were going to go higher in the draft? Can you kind of just talk about the whole draft process?
Yeah, I mean, the draft is obviously something every kid wants to be a part of that plays hockey. So going into the draft, I think I was ranked in the 5th round or something. But prior to the draft, teams a lot of times will express interest and want you to come down to a week-long testing training camp where they get to have a look at you and see what you can do and some testing for your physical strengths and whatnot. And I had been invited down to the Washington Capitals. So spent a week there with a couple other guys off my team, like the Centenilals. We had, I think, 7 guys drafted that year.
Wow.
So a couple of us were down in Washington for a week long of testing and agility and stuff like that. And as it turned out, when I got picked by Chicago, going by the Washington Capitals team bench, they actually showed me the jersey with my name on the back. They were planning on taking me, but they waited too long, so Chicago got me first.
Obviously, there's a lot of like rookie stories out there. Do you have any stories about your rookie year, about stuff like that?
There was the rookie party, but that's just one of those things that there wasn't any bad hazing. It was literally just a party for us guys and having a few drinks and some fun. But being that I was the tough guy, a lot of times, like I said earlier, with the Centennials too, there was no real hazing I had to fall under, because I was the guy that was going to protect everybody. So you don't want to mess around with them and end up getting left alone when it was time. So
yeah. So obviously being drafted, did any players from the Chicago Blackhawks get in contact with you? I guess it was quite a bit of, I don't know if there were phones or anything, but did anyone get in contact with you from the Blackhawks? Any players or coaches?
Well, through an agent and that, there was contact and talks and whatnot. But most of the chats I had with the coach and the team was in training camp. I was put on the ice afterwards and what we used to call a bag skate. So the other guys that go off the ice and being in the tough guy role, they want you in your best shape, and you don't get a lot of ice time, so you got to do extra skates after the game, extra skates on the weekend, just to make sure that you're ready to go when they give you the call. So there was a lot of extra work I had to do to prove that I wanted that position and was going to be in the tip-top shape when it came time. So,
yep.
So after 10 pro hockey seasons, you finally got the call up to the NHL to play for St. Louis. Sort of walk us through how the call happened. Where were you? What were your initial feelings and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, this is another good little story. At the time, I believe I was leading the American Hockey League in fighting majors and penalty minutes. We were actually on a road trip. So being on a road trip in the American League, we had to wear, you could have the leather jacket, golf shirt, nice pants on. So basically that was all I had. We were in Norfolk at the time and got the call. Coach came in and told me, he said, Steve, well, you might be getting the call tomorrow. They're talking about it. So after the game that night, sure enough, I couldn't sleep thinking about it. And there came the phone call. Yeah, Steve, you're heading up to St. Louis to play the game tonight. So it was rather exciting. I had a lot of nerves. I remember sitting in the dressing room and going to the washroom about 10 times. Didn't have to go, but thought I did. Just the nerves balling up inside. So.
So can you just tell us a little bit about your 6 games in the NHL? Like, obviously, who was your first game against? You had 25 penalty minutes. I'm assuming it was five career fights in the NHL. Can you kind of tell us about who maybe your first fight was against, your first game, and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, the first game was against Columbus, and they had Jody Shelley, who at the time had been, 5 or 6 years into the league and led every season in fighting majors, but was also a guy that I had fought 4 or 5 times in the minors already, taking down some of the nerves. But yeah, no, he was the first fight. And again, did I know it was going to happen? Absolutely. I was looking for it to happen to, prove my worth. Like, I'm the guy you want here. So as soon as it was time to step out on the ice, I looked right away, and that was Jody Shelley I was lining up with on the face-off draw. So it was on.
Awesome. Obviously, it was only 6 games, but we looked at your roster, and you had a pretty good team. Do you have any memories or stories of some of the players you played with in St. Louis?
Well, I just know the guys were great. I mean, like I said, I was brought in to do a job, and there was Scott Mellenby, Keith Kachuk, Pavel Bure, Pavel Dimitra, a bunch of guys, Chris Pronger, and basically they welcomed me in. I'd have a chat with those guys. Like, again, knowing my role, I'd go talk to those guys before the game, and is there anybody I got to talk to tonight for you? Maybe make your game a little easier. Trying to get those goal scorers not worried about anything other than putting the puck in the net. And they in turn gave me the information, and right there, it was a phone call to the agent, pregame nap there, talk to him a bit, find out who's going to be the guy I should be dealing with if things get out of hand. And sure enough, that's what happened, basically.
So nowadays, fighting's sort of a rarity due to, obviously concussions and that. What's sort of your thoughts on fighting in the game now? Like, should it still be an important part of the game, or do you like the way that's going where it's sort of starting to fade out?
Well, I know this. When I started my pro career, I mean, I was 3-year contracts with a team. The guys, even on the minor league team, were all there for the same duration. So that, to me, felt like a team. It felt more easy to defend guys that you had played with. They felt more like your friends and whatnot. But as my career went on, they kind of started phasing it out then. And I kind of noticed by the end of my 10-year career there that a lot of guys were just skipping from team to team. And, I felt that I was losing this is my team. I got to defend these guys. It kind of seemed like guys that were on my team the year before were now on the other team. Everybody was moving around. So I appreciated being on a team with the same guys for a couple of years and being able to get that camaraderie and whatnot and want to defend and do my part on the team to get us those wins, right? So,
yeah, you make some points about 3-year contracts and people leaving teams. I kind of wanted to branch off that a little bit. You played for 3 different teams in the AHL. How were the transitions? Were any of them trades, or were they just end of contracts, signing with new teams? And how was transition from city to city?
Well, that one, Chicago, I don't remember how many guys got picked up that year with me, but they all had the same story from their agents and whatnot, that if things didn't pan out with Chicago, they weren't going to hold us back. We'd be able to use the free agent thing if, the game was working out for us. And that's what happened with Chicago at the end of my 3 years there. They were like, you know what, Steve, we don't want to hold you back. We don't need you here. We've got what we wanted for your position, so we're just going to release you and you can go wherever you want. That was a trying summer for me because a lot of teams weren't calling right away. They kind of wait till the end of the summer and start balling up who they need. So by the time my agent called me, I'd been working out and was ready to go. And he's like, "No, this is you're going to be heading to Philadelphia." Got talking with Paul Holmgren and Billy Barber, and again, Billy Barber was a coach like Bert Templeton. He wanted his tough guys there to make the game easier for the goal scorers, like it was when he played in 74, 75, won the Stanley Cup, that type of thing. So ended up there in Philly, and from Philly, well, they were offering me another contract, but at the end of my 3 years with them, but I got offered a lot more money to another team, which was St. Louis, and being that I was in Philly for the 3 years and hadn't seen the ice with the NHL team, I thought, well, better go with St. Louis and see what happens there. And boy, I'm ever glad I did now, right? Got my name out there and got in there, so.
Yeah.
So obviously we mentioned that it took you 10 years to eventually get to the NHL level. What was sort of the motivation there? What kept you motivated to keep playing to eventually reach the NHL?
Well, it was, like I say, it was the camaraderie. It was the guys on the team. And I had a lot of, I had a lot of determination, going back to, like I said, my father had passed away and never got to see me play in the OHL, or you just have that in the back of your head and wanting to keep pushing to, maybe someday I'll get there and he can watch that game from up above or whatnot. And that was it for me. It was push for the guys around you and your home family and your loved ones, and just give her.
Yeah. I just kind of want to bring up very quickly your last season. You were in Springfield. You only played one game that season. Was there an injury or just a decide to retire?
Yeah, no, it was, when I got called up to St. Louis, thought, okay, good, I'm here, I'm going to stay here. Then there was the NHL lockout.
Yeah.
So going into Springfield, the Tampa Bay Lightning made the call that, you know what, we're not even going to bring any of the younger guys or whatnot except our first rounder or whatever to training camp, because it's going to be a late start to the season. We're going to go with the guys that were here last year. So right away I got put in Springfield, and that was kind of a downer.
Yeah.
Just knowing that the league was already trying to phase out the top guys and the fighting majors were down in the NHL. And obviously I still had a spot in the American League, to protect the up-and-comers, but that kind of brought things down. And then, with a few injuries and, one being concussion, obviously, coming out of that, you lose a step. And at that point, I was getting to my body started to hurt. I've lost a step. Can I get back to it? And at that point, I didn't feel that I could get back to it and didn't have what it would take. So it was kind of finish out the year and head home type of thing, looking for what's going to be the next step in life.
Yeah.
Just to sort of wrap it up, what is your most memorable fight in your pro hockey career?
Oh, there was quite a few. There's some you see online that boosted my, what would you call it there in the AHL, like getting into the first, probably about my third fight of the season with Scott Parker, where he breaks my nose, but then I go on to beat him down till, he was on the ice covering up or whatever. That kind of boosted guys, made them realize that, this guy's going to do what it takes. He's not going to stop. So you're either going to knock him out or you're going to lose the fight. And I never got knocked out. So.
We just want to kind of see what life brought after hockey.
Well, that was the big decision. Coming home with my wife and that, and try to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? So I did a few training things. Like I got a big pickup truck, love driving my truck. I didn't mind driving. I've been playing hockey, so that's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
So I figured, I'll go get my truck license and apply for the city. And after a year of plowing outside the city on the highway, the city gave me the call and said, we're looking for some plow drivers here. And I was able to get in, and I've been plowing snow for 15 years since.
Wow.
And now I'm worked my way into a charge hand position. So learned the right things from the right guys with the city, that I've got the information now to build roads and do drainage systems and all that stuff.
So obviously you said you're from North Bay and now you live in North Bay again. Me and Brandon both actually go to school here in North Bay to Nipissing. Have you been able to keep up with the Battalion these days? Because they are, me and Brandon do go to quite a few games and they're pretty good. I'm just wondering if you sort of still keep up with them.
Well, I try to see what's happening with them. I haven't myself been to many games. Like I say, when the hockey season's on, we're kind of on call for plowing and whatnot. So it's been tough to get the games, but I tried to get to the games that mattered, where they were honoring the Centenilals and having special jersey nights and stuff like that. So I still try to get out there when I can, but I probably should do it a little more.
Yeah, and one more last hockey question. Growing up in Owen Sound and North Bay and stuff like that, did you have a favorite hockey team growing up, and do you sort of have a team you cheer for now?
Well, growing up, it was funny. My favorite player was Paul Coffey, and that was all based off the defenseman, with the speed, rushing up the ice and getting in the play. And, well, when I played for the midget team, there was one game I scored 5 goals and had an assist, and we beat the team 6-1. So if I wasn't there, we would have lost 1-0. So I did have some talent that, went unseen as I started using my hands to protect my team a little more, but instead of finessing the puck into the net. But again, that was a choice. So.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you got a really early Stanley Cup prediction? What team do you like this year?
Ooh, that I'm not sure on. I haven't seen enough to check out the players on each team and see what they've been up to the last couple of years. So that'd be some studying I'd have to do there.
Well, we really appreciate you taking some time. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add there before we let you go.
No, just thanks to you guys for getting me on the show, and thanks for the listeners for listening. And, if you ever need anything in the future or have any questions, give me a shout, and we'll let the people know what Steve Mclaren thinks about it.
Perfect. Well, we really appreciate it, Steve.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Noah. Thanks a lot, Brandon.
No problem.
All right.
Have a good one.
Things go good for you in the future, guys.
Thank you. You too.
Catch you later.
Right on.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Again, we want to thank Steve for coming on our show. It was very interesting to listen to what he had to say. Very cool story, how he only grew up, played 6 games, all this time in the minors, and just the fighting aspect of, what he did and all his stories to tell. So we really appreciate him coming on and talking. Hopefully in the future, we will have him back on to talk for a bit more, maybe some other stories and stuff like that. But we'll jump right into what we have planned. I think for today, we're just going to go through our week 2 picks. I guess you guys will tell if we got one right or not, because the Chargers and Chiefs play tonight on the day we're recording this. And then since the NHL training camps open in less than 10 days, we figured why not throw a top 10 NHL players going into the next season.
Yes, sir. All right. I guess that is me. Like you said, we start the season. We start week 2 off with the Chargers and the Chiefs. Both teams looked pretty good last week. Obviously, the Chiefs looked really good against Arizona. The Chargers held their own against the Raiders, but obviously losing Keenan Allen.
Yes. Tonight I am going to go with the Chargers. I'm going to say that the Arizona offense was not all that set in stone, whereas the Chargers offense did look good. Justin Herbert looked good. Keenan Allen looked good until he got hurt. He's going to start using Mike Williams a bit more. Since Keenan is out for tonight, I don't think that's an issue. He didn't really use him very much in week 1, which is kind of weird. They were still able to beat the Raiders. I don't know. Just a gut feeling here. I'm going Chargers.
I'm going to go Kansas City. I think Keenan Allen being out's a huge loss. Obviously, he's not as big of a touchdown threat as Mike Williams and Austin Eckler, but he is the workhorse. He catches a lot of passes. He's really reliable. I think not having him is big, and I think also it being in Kansas City is a pretty big factor as well. Moving into our Sunday 1:00 games, we have Carolina traveling to New York to play the 1-0 Giants. Obviously, Carolina losing to a game-winning field goal in week 1, and the Giants pulling off a huge upset, being the Titans. And Saquon looked unbelievable.
I was literally just about to say that's great. That Saquon looks finally like he's back to health. His legs look good. I am going to ride the hot hand. I am going to go the Giants are going to win this one.
I couldn't agree more. I think if Saquon can play like that, he'll have no problem scoring a couple touchdowns on this Carolina defense. And I mean, again, it's in New York. I don't know how much that'll help, but Carolina didn't look. I'm not even going to say Carolina. I'm going to say Baker. I wanted him to look a lot better, especially against his former team. And I mean, we were both saying he was going to have a pretty big game, and it didn't really come.
He didn't.
It didn't come. Next we have the New England Patriots traveling to Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh played great against the Bengals, the Pittsburgh defense in particular. And
Big loss losing TJ.
Yeah, that is a big loss. And then the Patriots just didn't really come to play week 1.
No, the Patriots looked very, very unorganized, which is weird for a Bill Belichick-led team. They didn't really seem like they were all on the same. I don't know what word am I looking for? Same page. They weren't all on the same page. Couldn't think of that. I'm gonna give this one to the Steelers again. I think the Steelers are gonna start 2-0. I don't know. I'm not really a big believer in the Patriots this year.
I like the Steelers as well. I think I don't know if Mac Jones is Mac Jones. Do we know if
I don't think he practiced. I'll check. Keep talking.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a big loss in itself, and the Patriots just they had nothing going for them week 1. I mean, their offense was pretty stagnant. Their defense was decent, but still allowed a lot of big plays. Whereas the Steelers, although their offense didn't pop, they were just consistent on offense. They didn't turn the ball over, which is all you can ask for. Their defense is elite, and when you got that defense, if Mitch Trubisky isn't turning the ball over, you have a great chance to win every week. So I'm also going to go Steelers here.
Mac Jones missed today's practice with an illness, so I think he'll be fine to go.
Yeah, if it's just an illness, should be fine to go. Pretty big game next. We have Tampa Bay going to New Orleans to play the Saints. Tampa Bay pretty handily beat the Cowboys, while the Saints
they had some issues. They my Atlanta Falcons did do their usual. They blew a 16-point lead.
Yeah.
I think I called it. I think I said it at halftime. They're gonna find a way to lose this, and look at that, they did.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Tampa. Tampa looked good. Chris Godwin is gonna be out, but they Julio Jones looked very good, which is good to see. That he might be able to finally have a good year at the age 32. Their defense looked good. Devin White, especially, he looked very good. That whole Buccaneers team just looked good, and the fact that the Saints barely were able to get past the Falcons, whenever the Falcons are probably a top 5 worst team in the league, kind of scares me.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. This is a tough one. You know, I'm also gonna go Bucks. I think it's gonna be a close game. Obviously, the Saints always give them problems. I just think, I don't know. I mean, a Dak was there for basically the whole game, and they were only able to score 3 points. I think that shows that this defense is locked. We already knew they had a pretty good defense. I just got a notification. Mike Evans and Alvin Kamara both didn't practice today, so that could factor in. But I think just Dak and the Cowboys had the best offense last year, and they've had one of the top 5 offenses the last couple of years. So the fact they can only score 3 points, I think, is a big testament to the Bucks defense. I think it'll shine here. Next, we have the New York Jets traveling to Cleveland to play the Browns.
I like the Browns this one. They were able to beat the Panthers. I know it was on a game-winning field goal, and you'd like to say the Browns are a higher caliber team than the Panthers, but they were still able to get past them. And the Jets are the Jets. They didn't look all that great against the Ravens. They do have Joe Flacco starting again. Other than Michael Carter and maybe Corey Davis, they didn't look that good. Garrett Wilson wasn't all that involved. It was kind of weird, seeing how high he was taken. The Jets just are a weird franchise, so I'm gonna go Browns.
I'm also gonna go Browns. I think all around they just have a better offense and defense. The Jets are trying. Next we have the Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens.
Good game. I see a lot of people picking Miami. I'm not doing it. Lamar looked very good without having really a threat. Like Rashad Bateman is their number one receiver. I know he's young, but I don't think he's really all that proven. The fact that Lamar was able to still ball out, and their defense, the Ravens defense looked very good. I'm still not trusting Tua all that much because they played a bad or a not on the same page Pats team. So I'm gonna go Ravens.
You're gonna go Ravens. I am also gonna go Ravens.
Wow, be original, man.
I mean, we disagreed on one of the picks. um, no, I just think Lamar honestly didn't have a good rushing game.
Yeah, but he
And
was good through the air.
yeah, and I think that's actually a good thing. It shows yeah, Lamar rushed 6 times for 17 yards. But he threw a bunch of touchdowns. Not a bunch, I guess, but Duvernay looked really good. Mark Andrews was kind of quiet. I think he'll wake up.
Yeah, he was quiet. That's
Yeah,
the reason I lost fantasy.
he'll definitely wake up. This should be a close game, though. Miami did look pretty good last week against the Patriots. Both Hill and Waddle scoring touchdowns, I believe.
Go to Waddle.
I know Waddle scored one for sure. I'm gonna go Ravens. Next, betting wise, we have the tightest game. The Washington Commanders traveling to Detroit to play the Lions.
I like the Commanders. Carson Wentz looked very good in his Commanders debut. Another guy that looked very good was the rookie Juwan Dotson, I think his name is,
Yep.
the receiver. He looked very good. Antonio Gibson did look pretty good. I don't know why, but the Commanders are sneaky. Maybe they heard that they were being not talked about as much as the Eagles and the Cowboys were in that division. But the Commanders came out in week 1 and really proved that they are a decent team. So I'm going to go with the Commanders.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go Lions. Yes, the Commanders won. It was against the Jags. I don't think people are expecting much of the Jags. I did say they'd come second in the division.
Yeah, they're not looking too hot.
I mean, technically they're there.
True, no team in that division won a game last week.
I know, so they're still in it. Whereas Detroit, they lost, but they lost by 3 points to a team that a lot of people project to make the playoffs. You and me included in that.
Yep.
And they held their own. They scored a lot of points. I think that was the big thing. Is this team going to be able to score? Yeah, they scored quite a bit, 32 points on the week. I think obviously if you can score 32 against the Commanders, you're probably going to win. I just think the way this team's playing right now through week 1, I feel like if they can bring that again, they're going to have no problem with this Commanders team. So there's our difference. Next, we have the 0-1 Indianapolis Colts facing the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I like Indy. Sure, they tied the Texans, but I think it took them a bit. Jonathan Taylor was still a beast. He always is a beast. Always is, always will be. Matty Ice took a bit to sort of get to it. Instead of blowing a comeback, Matty Ice came back, which is kind of new for him. Usually he's blowing comebacks. It did just say that Michael Pittman might be a DNP. I think this just opens up more snaps for the rookie Alec Pierce and players like that. That defense is also great. Darius Leonard looked great. So I don't see the Colts having an issue here.
Yeah, I'm also going to pick Colts, like Noah said. I don't think the score reflects the game. I feel like they did play pretty well. They just couldn't get it in. And that happens sometimes. We saw that with the Broncos. They had better stats in every basically category, just couldn't score the ball. That happens sometimes. I think that's just a week 1 outlier, so I'm going to go Colts as well. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons against the LA Rams. Oh, and this is the start of our 4:00 games, by the way.
As much as I want to go out my Atlanta Falcons, this Rams team's too good.
You're fake. You're fake.
Go dig a hole. The Falcons did look good. I'll give them that. Cordell looked great. Drake London looks legit. Mariota was was good, shaky at some points. I'd like to see them involve Kyle Pitts a lot more. I'm sure
Me
you
too.
would. Um,
Me too.
and something that was surprising, they had a pass rush. They got 7 sacks on Jameis Winston, which I think that's been their issue for the past so many years. But this Rams team, sure, they didn't look good in the opening game, but they were playing the Bills. I have the Bills winning the Super Bowl this year, so I feel like it's a bit of a Super Bowl hangover. I did call that the Super Bowl hangover, but I think that they'll get right back on track in this Atlanta game.
I'm also gonna go Rams, but
be original. Take my Falcons.
I think it'll be a little bit closer. Like I think this is the biggest spread of the week.
Probably.
It's a 10-point spread. Um, I would be willing to take the Falcons at +10 for sure. Like you said, they had a good pass rush, and if we think back to week 1, I think the Bills sacked the Rams 7 times. And that was huge in the Bills dominating that game. And I think if Atlanta can get to Matt Stafford, I think they can see a little bit of success there. And like Noah said, their offense wasn't bad either. Atlanta's offense has never been bad, but you never know with a new quarterback. Next we have the Seahawks going to San Francisco.
The 1-0 Seahawks are going to be 2-0 with Geno Smith. They look good. Geno did look pretty good. Still a weird choice by the Broncos coach trying to kick a 64-yarder whenever you have a 4th and inches with probably one of the better quarterbacks of this generation. It was really weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say. I didn't, like you said, you weren't really impressed with San Fran, but maybe it was maybe because they weren't used to the conditions. Maybe it's because it was Trey Lance's first game. But I think that Seattle has something to prove after they traded Russell Wilson and everybody was writing them off. I think they're going to come out again.
Yeah, I know it sounds boring. I'm going Seahawks as well.
How many have we not agreed on?
2. Maybe that's just saying maybe it's going to be a pretty easy week. Maybe that's why we're agreeing so much. But no, I agree. I really liked Geno's quote when he was like, people were calling him and saying he was fake. He was like, yeah, and I just didn't pick up. But he looked pretty mean out there. Obviously, he wasn't stellar, but he didn't hurt the team at all. They played very well, especially when Russ is coming to play against his old team. You know the emotions are going to be high. I think they handled it very well. Got off to an early lead and just kind of held it. Where San Fran, I think it's going to take a little while for Trey Lance to get used to it. I mean, I think a lot of people pick this San Fran team to make the playoffs. I think no matter how good a quarterback is, I think it takes rookie quarterbacks a little while to get used to it. And also it's a divisional game, so teams always come to play against division rivals. So the Seahawks, I mean, the 49ers are 8.5-point favorites, which is kind of crazy. Wow. But I'm taking Seattle there. Next we have the Houston Texans, the undefeated Houston Texans, going to play the unwon Denver Broncos.
I'm gonna go Denver. It's Houston. I know they just gave the Colts a run for their money, but one thing I did like is for the Broncos side, Jerry Jeudy looks like a breakout candidate, which is good for you and your fantasy. I believe you still have.
I've been waiting for that.
I'm not sure. Russ really looks like he likes him. He liked throwing it to him. He did have that big touchdown. I was watching every week the NFL on YouTube posts that are like a mic'd up, and Russ kept in the pregame stretching for the Seahawks Denver game. Russ came up to Judy. He's like, "Ball's coming your way, make plays. It's coming your way, make plays." So I feel like Russ has the trust in Judy. So I have a feeling that Judy's gonna have a sort of a breakout year. I was a bit disappointed with their run game. I didn't think Javonte really took a step up, or Melvin Ingram. Cortland Sutton did look good. But But then again, sure, the Texans gave the Colts a run some money, but I would still consider the Broncos a better team all around than the Colts. So I'm going to go Broncos.
Yeah, I'm also going to go Broncos. I think if you're a Broncos fan, don't get too upset about week one. You led in every basically statistical category. And like I said earlier, sometimes you just don't score. They got onto the 1 yard line 3 times, and I think they fumbled it all 3 times. It happens. It's better to get it out of the way week one than in the playoffs. So I think they will have no problem here against Houston. Next, we have the Arizona Cardinals going to face the Las Vegas Raiders.
Cardinals are the most overrated team in the league. Put it in the books. I'm going Raiders. They look good, except for Derek Carr. I don't know what's up with him. There was so many times, like the last couple minutes of the game, where he would drop into the pocket and he'd hold on to the ball forever. Whenever you have Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa rushing on either ends, like your tackles aren't going to be able to hold these two elite players for that long. And then he started complaining. Devontae looked good. Josh Jacobs actually looked pretty good, and the defense didn't look bad. I don't like the Cardinals at all. In my opinion, I did just say that they are the most overrated team in the league. So give me the Raiders.
Mark my words, boy. The Arizona Cardinals are winning this game, okay?
Okay.
You know why? Do you know why they're winning this game?
Why are they winning this game?
I got a couple words for you. Kyler Murray is my quarterback in
That's why.
fantasy. So I mean, he played well. He played well against Kansas City. Their defense, I don't know what happened. I know it's Kansas City, but 42 points is quite a bit. I don't think they will allow the Raiders to score 42 points, and I think if the Arizona offense can play the way the Arizona offense can play, I think this will be a very high-scoring game. Don't get me wrong, but I think Arizona will edge it out. Now we have the last of the Sunday games. We have the
Sunday Night Football?
Oh, no. Never mind. Sorry. The last of the 4 o'clock games, we have the Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas is putting Cooper Rush in the helm. Joe Burrow did have 4 turnovers, but I think that's sort of a learning curve for him. Maybe not. It shouldn't really be a learning curve considering he's going into his 3rd season. But I don't think he can do much worse than that. Joe Mixon had a good game. I don't know if T. Higgins will be playing or not, if he's going to be in concussion protocol. But I'm still going to go Bengals here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bengals as well. Unless
And we are so original.
we just had opposites last pick.
Yeah.
Unless Joey Burr throws 5 interceptions again, they shouldn't have any problem against this team. They still basically only have CD Lamb and Zeke, and now they don't even have Dak. So they shouldn't have a problem here. Closing it out on Sunday night, we have the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers.
Chicago's 1-0. I told you yesterday. When we were playing Rock Band that Chicago's winning this. Chicago is winning this game.
I got a question for you then. I'm looking at our picks from last week. You picked the 49ers. I picked the Bears. I picked the Bears.
I'm well aware.
Okay.
I'm picking the Bears. They've changed me. They brought me back.
Okay.
Even though I was never there.
I know one of these teams is 1-0 and one of these teams is 0-1, but they both looked absolutely brutal last week. I think Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. I think this is in Green Bay. I think Justin Fields might be a little scared of the moment. I think.
So what's your excuse going to be whenever the Green Bay loses and Aaron Rodgers announces his retirement?
If Aaron Rodgers announces retirement, I say, you know what, good, go for the number 1 pick.
It's Jordan Love season.
Yeah, it's Jordan Love time, baby. No, in all honesty, Green Bay shouldn't lose this game.
I'm still taking Bears.
I know you are. They shouldn't lose this game. If they lose this game, they do got to figure something out. So we'll see how it goes. Moving on to Monday night, we actually have 2 games.
Yes, I remember this.
The first game, we have the Tennessee Titans traveling to Buffalo.
A good game. Tennessee's a bit overrated. Derrick Henry's going to go nuts since I just picked him up in fantasy. He's going to go nuts for me. But the Bills looked very good. Josh Allen probably watched our video when we ranked our top quarterbacks, where I had him. I think I had him at 4 or 5. So I
Yeah,
think
really.
Dad took it personally. Diggs looked good. Singletary looked good. Their defense looked good. The Bills are just a good team.
All I'm going to say about this game is Noah and I are agreeing again,
Oh,
and try and find a podcast that is not picking the Bills. If they're not, they're probably from Nashville or Tennessee. Wrapping up our week 2, we have. I think this is going to be a very good game. Actually, we have the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles.
give me the Vikes. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the NFL.
I think I said this, and you said already, and I said
Well,
watch. I said watch.
I gave him third.
Yeah, exactly. I had him at 1. Just saying. Why are you picking the Vikings?
They're a better team.
You
No,
know
I'm just
what?
kidding. I don't know. They were able to beat the Green Bay, and I know a lot of people still had Green Bay coming in to the season ranked higher than them, or possibly being the division winners. But I think that the Vikings are a good team this year.
The Vikings always go 1-1 with Green Bay. They always win their one in Minnesota. They always lose the one in Green Bay. This team might have looked like a Super Bowl contender in week 1, but that's just because it was against Green Bay in Minnesota. Happens every year. This is the same old Minnesota team we've seen in years prior. Philadelphia is taking this game.
Oh,
Yeah, trust me.
well,
It's in
he might just be a bit pissy that they lost.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely not. No, Minnesota. No, they're not winning this game. I'm sorry. It's in Philly. Philly played well. I know I was saying uh, that Detroit played very well against them, but I mean, Philly scored. Philly won the game. They played well themselves. The defense was a little lackluster, but they'll clean that up. I mean, really, the only person who played well for Minnesota last week was Justin Jefferson. Thielen was kind of nowhere. Dalvin Cook didn't cook Green Bay like he normally does. So so you can expect them to have a little bit bigger games, but AJ Brown looked ridiculous.
Oh, he did look ridiculous.
Jalen Hurts, it was the I don't know topic around him was can he throw? I think he answered that last week. He can throw.
All 3 running backs had a touchdown.
All 3 running backs had a touchdown. This is the only bad thing the Philly did last week was their defense. So I think they're going to clean that up at home and beat Minnesota. That wraps up week 2. Craziness. Are you alive?
I am. So, to wrap it up, I know we didn't talk about very much sports. In that
we had an interview.
We had an interview, yes.
The interview was sick.
I meant sport content. We hope you did enjoy the interview.
How could you not?
How could you not? But since, like I said, since the NHL training camp is coming up soon, I said, screw it. Let's give our top 10 players going into this next season. So here we go. We'll each do 10. We'll give a short reasoning, and then we will move on.
So the way I did it is I know when you rank top players, it tends to be forward heavy. So in here I wanted to put one goalie. I don't know if you can guess who that is or not, and 2 defensemen. Just 2.
I only have 1 defenseman.
Okay, I put in 2 just because I wanted to even it out a little bit. So at 10, I'm gonna put Cale Makar. I think he is the second best defenseman in this league right now. Is that too low?
I think so.
Okay, fair enough.
I know some people that have him as the best player in the league.
Yeah, I think that's pushing it a little bit. Personally, I mean, obviously, that I've said I've had 2 defensemen. You know, the other one's Victor Hedman. I think in the next within possible year, Makar will earn that title, but I think Hedman, through all the championships, he was the backbone, the longevity. I think still at this current moment, I have to have him ahead. So at number 10, I'll have Cale Makar. Wonderful talent. One of the most interesting players to watch in the league. Will be very high on this list next year, probably.
Number 10 for me is a guy who was traded this offseason. It's Jonathan Huberdeau. People were talking about this trade that Tkachuk was the big piece. I think that Huberdeau is a better player. I think he will be a better player this year. He had an arguable Hart season last year. He had a career year, and then Florida just ups and ships him out. I think that was more the age thing and he was becoming a free agent, but Calgary was able to get that extension, so I don't see why Florida was not able to get an extension done. And I think Huberdeau is 100% still a top 10 player right now.
At number 9, I have Artemi Panarin. I think and this might hurt Noah a little bit, but the Rangers were definitely not projected to go as far as they did. Obviously, being the young team they were, this was just supposed to be, hey, make it, get some experience, come back next year. But they made a full run on it, and I think Panarin was a big piece in that. Obviously, he was a big leader on and off the ice, played very well. And I think, he's one of the most highest paid players in the league for a reason.
Second.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of an overpayment there, but he definitely deserves a lot of money.
My number 9 player is one of Brandon's boys, Mitch Marner. He's arguably one of the better, or not arguably, he is one of the better playmaking forwards in this league. I want to say that he's part of the reason that Matthews got 60 goals this year. I think without Marner, I don't think he has 60. I think he's close to maybe 45. I don't know. Maybe you think different, but I think there's that those two together make each other better. And I said he's one of the better playmaking forwards. I probably have the 2 other better playmaking forwards ahead of him on this list, which you guys will hear. But yeah, I have Marner at 9.
At number 8, I have Nikita Kucherov. Has played very well in the playoffs last couple of years. I know a lot of people who would probably have him higher, but just I don't know. He's been hurt. He obviously missed all of 2 seasons ago, and had some injury problems last year as well. So I think obviously when he's playing, he's amazing. Would like to see him play a little bit more.
My number 8, I have another guy that I just mentioned. One of the guys I think is a better playmaker than Marner. Maybe not even playmaker, maybe just all-around player. It's Barkov of the Panthers. I think he's probably next to Bergeron, the next best two-way player in this league. He wins draws. He's a great leader. He's just an all-around great player. If you don't have him in your top 10, Brandon, I'm sorry. I can't respect that list. He's number 8.
I'm wondering who I have at number 7.
Oh,
I have Barkov.
oh, there it is.
And it actually is. It's funny that you say that. I can't really add to what you say. I do think he is more of a all-around than just a playmaker. He's always in Selke nominations with Bergeron. One of the other than Bergeron, and you can put O'Reilly in that conversation if you want to. One of the best two-way centermen / forwards in the league, and puts the points up to back it up.
Yeah, for sure. He's a great player. My number 7 is where I have my one defenseman. It is Cale Makar. I do believe Cale Makar is a better player all around than Victor Hedman. I do respect your take of having Victor Hedman better than him. I think it's sort of a 1A, 1B sort of combo. Hedman, actually, I was typing down Hedman at 10 to put him at 10, but then I'm like, oh, wait, I forgot about Jonathan Huberdeau. So Hedman would technically be my 11th if I had an 11. Makar is probably one of the more dynamic players that we've been able to watch in the last 10 years. He gives me very prime Erik Karlsson vibes, but better, if that makes sense. I think he is in line for many more. Oh my God, what's the defensive award?
Norris.
Thank you. Oh my God, he's in line for so many more Norrises. I don't know if have they locked him up on an extension yet? I have honestly no clue.
No,
I don't think so. I think he's still on his rookie contract, but he's just such a dynamic player. He's a human highlight reel. He's not bad defensively either. So Makar at 7.
At 6, I have the counterpart, Victor Hedman. Like I said before when I was talking about Makar, I do think Makar is the more skilled player, but Hedman's just locked it down for so many years now. Obviously, he's won playoff MVP. He is one of the biggest leaders in that group, and he is the reason this team has won all the Stanley Cups they've won. So I'm going to put Victor Hedman there at 6.
I have no issues with that. At my 6, I have his teammate Nikita Kucherov. You did say he has been hurt lately, but I think whenever he's healthy on the ice, he is 100% a top 10 player in the league, arguable top 5. My number 5 and 6 for me could probably be swapped back and forth. You'll see who that is in a minute. But I honestly think he's becoming to be a bit overrated, not overrated, underrated because of his injuries. People are sort of just saying, oh, he's only here for the playoffs. But I think when he's healthy, he's a top 5 player.
Well, I just mentioned Hedman. You just mentioned Kucherov. So I might as well at 5 mention Vasilevsky. Let's go all Tampa here. The best goalie in the league, I still think. He showed that in the playoffs. In the series, obviously, he came out on top. Shesterkin could easily get into this list in the very near future. But again, to a point of longevity, I think Vasilevsky takes the cake on that one for sure.
My number 5 is maybe a bit of a hot take. I have Leon Draisaitl at number 5. He's is very good offensively, passing the puck. He's pretty putrid on the defensive end, which is why I have the 4 guys ahead of him because they are way better defensive forwards than Leon Draisaitl. I don't have much to say on Draisaitl other than what I just said. He wins faceoffs, pass the puck. McDavid's not McDavid out of Draisaitl, kind of like Matthews is in Matthews out Marner.
I don't really think that's a hot take. I have Draisaitl at 4. I think what's a good way to put it? I think a lot of the things you said are right about Draisaitl. We all know he's skilled, but I actually I watched the podcast with him with the spin chiglets, and I respect his skill a lot more. Hearing the things he was dealing through with that foot on the playoffs, he couldn't even skate. He was still putting up more than a point a game in the playoffs. He was putting up crazy numbers, basically standing still. He wasn't moving out there very much, and he still found a way to be very productive. Obviously, it's hard to know his true skill, like you said, playing with McDavid. But
It'd be interesting to see him on his own team.
It would be very interesting, but I think his skill is undeniable. So, Draisaitl at 4.
My number 4 is my favorite player of all time. It is Sidney Crosby. Just turned 35, but last year he showed no signs of stopping down. He missed the first couple weeks of the season with his wrist, and then he caught COVID. But if he played all 82 games, he was on pace for 103 points, which is still elite. And the fact that he was doing that while playing elite defense at the center position and also winning faceoffs, I think there's no way you don't have him in your top 5, if not top 4. I don't see him slowing down this year either. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being Penguins biased, but I still think Sidney Crosby is 100% a top player.
So I do want to say I kind of cheated the system. It's a top 10, but I have 11.
Huh?
I do actually have 11. I had 2 people tied for 1 just because I think
1A, 1B.
Yeah, I think they're the face of the NHL. So I'm not trying to sound like I'm copying your list because we've had some similar names, but at 3, which is basically 3.5, I have Sidney Crosby. Like you said, average for 103 points. And it's not even just the points, it's the leadership, it's the defensive, it's the all around. Like, I've even lately, Crosby will throw fists with somebody if he has to. It's just the evolution of his game has gone from at one point people were saying point scoring crybaby to point scoring defensive toughness leadership. He's just the full package, and he has been the face of the NHL for so long now, along with Ovechkin, and he has continued to produce in all areas of the ice for the past decade and a half.
My third player is the most recent Cup winner. It is Nathan McKinnon. I think the only reason he's at 3 is because he trains with Sid, so he's getting all Sid pointers. No, I'm just kidding. He's obviously an elite player. He's about to become the highest paid player in the NHL. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be north of 13 mil, which is nuts. Not saying it's not deserved. I just saying it might put the Avs in a bit of cap hell in that sense. But he can wheel. He is one of the guys that whenever he picks up the puck, he generates so much steam and so much like speed that it's scary trying to stop him. I don't know. He also skates very hard. He skates with a passion all the time. Shoots. He just tries his ass off all the time, and he has skills. So he's McKinnon at 3.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna continue with your points again.
Wow. Okay, you can just talk about everybody else. So talk about the rest. I'll leave.
At 2.5, I have McKinnon.
Half.
I think, well, he's my 2. He's my 2. I have McKinnon. I think the Avs deserve to be in cap hell. I think he is. Well, I mean, we have him as the 3rd best player in the NHL, and you look at his salary, and it was $6 million.
Yeah.
That's kind of criminal.
Whoever his agent was before this deal needs to be fired.
I mean, I think the Avs deserve to be in some cap hell for the cap opposite of hell, the cap heaven that he has put them in the last couple of years to build these cup runs. It's definitely not his fault that in those cup runs from his cap space, they gave him, they only won 1. But it's the way it goes sometimes. He's definitely going to be the highest paid player. So he is my number 3.
At number 2, I have the most recent Maurice Richard Trophy winner, Austin Matthews. I won't talk much about him because I know he is
not better than McDavid.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't have him better than McDavid.
I wanted to put him there. I honestly did kind of want to put him there.
I don't either. I just want to talk about different names, but now we have the same list from 5.
And my best player in the NHL, Zach Kassian.
Recently traded.
Yes. No, 2 and 1 are Matthews and McDavid. Not much to be said about them.
It's hard to argue. I don't think you can get mad at anyone for having in any order. Matthews is the goal scorer, sort of elevated defensive player, where McDavid is sort of all around flashy. These two, I feel like, are kind of in the process of replacing Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin. That time, it was for the last, like I said, decade and a half. It was always oh, Pittsburgh and Washington are playing. I want to watch, even if you're not a fan of them. Even if you're a fan of a Western Conference team, when these two teams played, you're I want to see Ovechkin versus Crosby.
Yeah, that's a fair take.
I think every time the Maple Leafs and the Oilers are playing, you are getting a lot of outside fans being, I want to see Matthews.
I'm definitely watching that.
I mean, I have to, but
yeah.
I think they're sort of taking that role, and it's going to be exciting to watch these two players go head to head for quite some time.
For sure. Well said. That'll wrap it up for today, guys. If you guys enjoyed the interview, make sure you leave a like. We'll try to get some more interviews on the thing, but like we said, me and Brandon are back into the swing of things for school. Starting to get busy with work and stuff. But we will still try to hammer out these episodes for you. So make sure if you guys support us, give us a like to never miss an upload. Make sure you're subscribing, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Packers are better than the Bears.